Here's the story of a bunch of podcasts who were bringing Cubby content to the world. All of them did their own show. Unconnected, obsessive baseball nerds. It's the story of a bunch of Cubs fans who are consolidating all their shows. They're uniting, doing it together, so we all can grow. Cup of Cubby Blues combining with Sunranto, Baseball Rabbit Hole and Cubs PS Plus. With Cubs Pod and Briggs behind the ivy, they're all teaming up to be the Bleacher Bunch, the Bleacher Bunch. We love the Cubs, that's the way we became the Bleacher Bunch.
Welcome to the Bleacher Bunch on the Fans First Network. This show is brought to you by all of our Patreon supporters who support us at patreon.com/Bleacher Bunch, especially Blake Beard and Rogue Wave Creative, not to mention all the great Cubs podcasts on the Bleacher Bunch like Cubs PS Plus, Cup of Cubby Blue, Bricks Behind the Ivy, Baseball Rabbit Hole, Cubs Pod, and yours truly, Sunranto Show. And I'd also like to especially thank our sponsors in the Clutch shirts. We're going to have a bunch of great new shirts for you coming up next week, and also Matt Kammer's Permanent Paintings. We're gonna get right to it because it's I think it's early where he is. I want to bring him in, and all you hate watchers out here, have at it, because here's the most controversial Cub fan in Cub fandom. It's Bleacher Jeff.
So controversial.
I know. I mean, just all the crazy things you're doing that are just pissing off White Sox fans across the city of Chicago. It's just wild. But
it's so funny.
Well, first, what time is it, and when is the giant bowling game? Because I see there's a giant bowling pin behind you.
Yeah, right now it's just after 10 a.m. in Tokyo. I just woke up. Obviously, been having some late nights, going out and seeing the town and having some drinks and checking out cool bars and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, there's a bowling darts pool center across the way here with the giant bowling pin I've been looking at all week. It's pretty fun to wake up to every morning.
Yeah, I heard that you went to like some incredible Japanese restaurant called let me think, TGI Fridays.
Jesus Christ. I literally went to TGI Fridays like an hour and a half after the game because there was a party there, and like people were like asking like I was getting a meal. I'm eating every meal at fucking TGI Fridays or something. It's ridiculous. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, people are fucking unhinged.
They were giving Alex Cohen shit, too, because he went to 7-Eleven. It's just like, dude.
7-Eleven is awesome here, dude. Like, 7-Eleven is legit here. It's like what you do. Oh, because, like, there's a thing where, like, all the portions are, like, so small. Like, you get hungry, so you want to eat something else while you're out. And, like, these convenience stores have, like, actually really delicious sandwiches, like crispy lettuce that you would never get in the U.S., like on a convenience store sandwich and stuff like that. So like, it's amazing. It's great. People do it all the time. Like, it's what you do here. 7-Eleven is like, is it.
Dude, I even found that going to Poland, I'm like, all their versions of what we have are way better. Like, they would never eat the slop or like the hot dog on the roller that's been sitting there for 6 years, you know. Well, I'm gonna put up a couple of pictures of your time, and I might be going backwards here, but you got on the field in Yokohama at the Bay Stars game, and you learned songs, and you met some players. Like, what happened out there?
Yeah, no, yesterday was really awesome out at Yokohama Stadium. It was a preseason game for them. I think it was their last preseason game before their season starts. So they had like a kickoff party, and they just like emptied out all the fans onto the field after the game, and they had like trumpets and the drummers and the singers and stuff in the outfield. They got a little stage. They brought some players up to sing at them and stuff too. So yeah, everybody's learning new songs and learning the old songs, and that's how they do it, man. So it was really cool to see like that in action, and you know how that distribution system of song works. That was my biggest question, really, the whole thing.
That's my question too. So they literally have like band rehearsal.
Yeah, they literally had like a rally on the field, and just started singing all the songs, a couple of them over and over again, and just drilling it into everybody's heads apparently, because that was a fun scene and really cool to watch.
are they existing melodies that everybody knows, like Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and they put new lyrics? Are they parodies, or are they like songs written for the team, like you and me compose, like we do old style, and then we take the old style melody and we make it about Ian Happ or whatever? Like, how does it work? Do you know like the ins and outs?
That I couldn't tell. It could be like songs that they know that I don't know. You know, it could be like more traditional Japanese songs or something, but it seems like they just follow along and there's like some similarities to them. And a lot of them have the same kind of like boom, 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 boom beat. But then they change it up a little bit. Like in songs, will go faster or slower sometimes and go, oh, when the pitch is coming and stuff like that. So
it's wild.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah.
Well, you were at those 2 exhibition games that the Cubs played, and that's when the singing was really taking off. So, I mean, did it sound as cool? I mean, it must have sounded way cooler being there.
Oh, yeah. Way cooler.
So exciting. I mean, I was like getting goosebumps at 5 a.m. watching that stuff. Like, it was incredible sounding.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. Like, everybody's just really, they're just so into it. And it's like the thing I love about it, it's just so authentic. Like, it's not like they're just like faking it or just like doing it, like they love this stuff, man. It's like in their blood, and like they really, are all about it. So that's the coolest part to see. It's like how much like they're really authentically like super into this. But the songs were incredible. Like the songs, I mean, it's just the whole right field, and their right field bleacher seems to be like the home team section. Like usually that's where like their home supporters are, like out in right field, which they got it backwards, but it's all right. They drive on the wrong side of the road here too, so it makes sense.
Well, also, like, there are reasons that left field is better at Wrigley Field, and it's like the sun doesn't set in your face. Like, that's a big one. Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to put up a couple other pictures here. So here's a bunch of this is on the field where they're teaching the songs. I see all the fans there. And
a couple of newer players,
And this is like how many fans are out there. Like this is thousands of people.
Yeah, no, they literally emptied the whole stadium out of the field. It was crazy. Like not a lot of people left. Like most of the people, like there was a big line to get on there. It took a few minutes, but like everybody was out there to get a nice panoramic photo as you see there. But so many people, and they were all like so into it, man. It's so cool. Everybody's learning the songs. Everybody's got their cheer sticks and pounding along. Like it's great.
I mean, do you think that we could really get that going at Wrigley? Like that there would be enough coordination amongst these freaking talentless acts?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that like is the problem is the unity, right? Like that's the thing we're lacking in America that they sorely have here.
Yeah, in fact, I saw a little disunity on Twitter. Like this guy called you. He said he called you a fat. He called you a fat cunt. I thought that was pretty out of line. I thought that was.
Of course, it's out of line, but like whatever. That's what you get for these people. Like they're disgusting. Like what do you want? Like
it's just really wild. But meanwhile, so people are just mad, and meanwhile, here's what you're actually doing. You're like hanging out with. Like, who are these dudes? Like,
those are the guys I sat in between at the second game.
They look wild.
Yeah, because I had a seat by myself, and Cubby Mike was like 2 rows in front of me, so we could only get singles. It was so hard to get tickets, obviously. But yeah, I sat down in between these guys. And at first, I don't think they were like, "What the fuck is going on here? Like, who's this giant asshole? Like, what's going on?" But the guy on the left of the picture there was like into everything. Anytime I started like a Go Cubs chant, he'd be like right on it. We'd be clapping. By the end of the game, we were best friends and taking pictures together, and he took one of me too. So, like, people think that have been awesome, dude. Like, that guy, he's probably, 55-year-old Japanese man that he's like, oh, I went to Chicago 20 years ago. I'm like, you go to Wrigley? He's like, no, I'm like, you gotta go, buddy. Let's do it. And he was just trying every chant, every moment of the game that we could yell and get into it. He was just parroting everything I did. It was awesome.
Well, let me ask you about that because that jogs something that I wanted to ask you about PCA. They were making a lot here about that the PCA chant was going up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think that's Jeff kind of leading that chant. Was that
It was at first. Yeah, the first day it was like out in the left field bleachers, we started it. And then like it's an easy one for them to pick up, right? I think it was an easy one for them to be like PCA, and they got what it was about, so I think they all got into that one like really easily and quickly.
I thought I heard your voice because like they weren't yelling during the Cubs at bats, so it was all about singing when the other team was up to win. Like when you had the God, who did we even play? I can't remember. We played the Tokyo Giants and Hanshin, Tigers. But but then it was really the juxtaposition between the elaborate rhythms and melodies that were in Japanese, and then just like a bunch of meatheads chanting PCA. I was like, oh God, we're so embarrassing. Like we are an idiocracy. Well, you brought up Mike. Now you said that you've been palling around with this guy pretty good.
Oh my God,
Cubby Mike. He's wearing actually the same shirt. I'll show you. I'm wearing right now.
Bleacher Rules.
The Bleacher Rules shirt, which I got number 96, and it's got my Danny Rock. I don't know how many of these Joe's going to make, but I think he's only doing like everybody gets their own number. Yeah. So where did Mike get his? He ordered this and you brought it to him? What happened?
I made sure to get it from Mike. He mentioned to me that he wanted one before, I left. And I talked to Joe and make sure he got one. He's number 2024 because that's when he became a Cubs fan. When Imanaga came over, he followed Shota over the Cubs and is going so hard with it. So, I wanted to make sure we got him a shirt too. Yeah.
Because he's a Bay Stars guy, right? That's his main team.
Yeah, he went to 70 Bay Stars games last year. So that's why, I found him on Twitter, talking about the Cubs, and I DM'd him and asked him. And as soon as he said he went to 70 Bay Stars game here, I'm like, oh, that's my guy. We're hanging out. That's my guy.
Well, and you gave him his first shot of Malort. Now, people, long-time listeners of the Sun Ranto show know that you and I have a long history of giving people their first shot of Malort. John Baker, we gave his first shot of Malort. We
Justin Steele.
It's Justin Steele. And also, specifically, we've given Japanese people their first shot in Malort. Like we had Tatsuya in 2022, who you're going to go visit him. And he went to Wrigley Field a couple years ago. But then you gave Mike, Cubby Mike, his first shot of Malort. Let me play this. This went viral, dude. Freaking.
No, it's probably not Mike. Which one are you looking at?
Is this not Mike?
We got a Japanese Cubs fan trying his first Malort. Okay.
No, who's that guy? That's not Mike.
That's just a random Cubs fans. We were just outside, waiting before the game and meeting up with everybody and just talking to people that came up to so many people just coming up to us because obviously we were a group of 7 or 8 Cubs fans. Some of us are very tall, and people are just coming up and trying to say hi and be like, "Oh, Cubs" and stuff. So. Once one of that happened, I pulled the guy aside and was like, "Oh, do you like to drink?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, try this."
So did you just bring a bunch of mini bottles with you to give to people?
Yeah, that was kind of my plan. That was kind of one of my content plans was to try and see if I could pull off one of these that would go pretty well. I brought 12 of them over.
Dude, Barstool picked this one up.
Yeah, and they finally credited me this time, Danny. They finally credited us, huh?
Oh my God! Well, we got to get a band sponsorship from Malort. Yeah, I mean, you've done more to bring.
True.
Who knows? It might end up being the delicacy over there.
They seem to like it. They seem to like it.
I mean, they eat Kentucky Fried Chicken on Christmas, which is a tradition there. So I mean, they. Sure. But anyway, let me play this video of.
Okay, he's gonna try. We got a Japanese Cubs fan trying his first Malort.
Whoever this is drinking Malort. It made him instantly sing "Go Cubs Go."
Immediately, he didn't say "Go Cubs Go" before or anything, so he just drank Malort and it's like Popeye eating his spinach, just coming out with the "Go Cubs Go" is a beautiful thing. Go Cubs Go.
So I've got to show just in juxtaposition. This is at Nisei Lounge, really, which is the home of Malort. Tatsuya taking his first Malort shot here. It's real quick.
Banzai.
Here he goes. He takes it, and it immediately, here's slow motion. Boom! Straight out. Oh, he can't handle it. Oh, he almost puked out his kid.
That's a good one. That's a classic.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reaction that you were probably hoping for. Now, have you given this shot of Malort to other people out there? Or
yeah, a couple of them that were. Yeah, Mike got one too. Yeah, I gave him one the first night just because I wanted to get him going. But Mike took it pretty well too. He did not want another one though after the first one.
Is it? I'm good. A lot of people have that reaction. I've noticed to Malort.
Yeah, the Dodgers fan one was even better. You see the one that I got the Dodgers fan with? He screamed and then almost fell down, then turned around and high fived everybody. That was really good too.
So how about the games, like the Cubs games versus the Dodgers? I mean, it definitely felt a little bit more like a Major League Baseball game. There was no singing going on. It wasn't, it felt kind of normal. What What was the vibe like for those? Like more Dodger fans, more Cub fans, or?
Oh yeah, no, definitely more Dodgers fans. It's probably 85% Dodgers fans. I mean, obviously with Ohtani, it's everywhere here. Like you see, I mean, you could tell that he deferred that money because he's on every billboard, every commercial, everything you could ever imagine out here. It's crazy, but yeah, there's definitely a vibe shift between those games. Definitely a lot quieter. Definitely, yeah, not the same energy with the songs and stuff. More tension than fun. I think
It felt
going
that
on.
way.
Yeah, yeah, and like we didn't have it. Like no, you don't have the songs. We don't have anything to sing. So occasionally we get some chants going and stuff that would do all right. But people were mostly just into watching Otani and the game itself, and yeah, just the tension of it more than the fun of all that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a couple of guys that are in the chat right now that I believe are in Japan right now or just back in Chicago. And this is Frank from the Mistaken Identity podcast.
Oh.
He said Japan is awesome. I know he either went over there or is back from there right now. I don't know if you saw him when you guys were there. And
I'm not running Frank now.
Swerve Samuels says Bleacher Jeff for president, but he was over there. He said they had virtually no Cubs stuff in the team store.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I know Mike, Cubby Mike went to like the store the first day it opened, and there was a little bit more Cubs stuff. But I think all that stuff was very low stocked because it was picked through pretty quick. So all the official stores here have like no merch really whatsoever. So if you want Tokyo Series merch, I would go down to Wrigley Field because that's where I got stuff before I left. If they still have any, but.
Well, speaking of stuff, you got a ball from Tom Ricketts.
Oh yeah.
What happened there? Tom's going out there giving his balls away.
Yeah, he had a whole sack of balls. He was pulling stuff out of them. No, like he does that. I do see him doing this most home games at Wrigley. He usually comes around and he's giving balls to kids that are stamped that are personalized with like a logo. And they have like the date on it and the series and stuff like that. So I've seen him do that before. But yeah, I was just sitting in my seat between those two Japanese gentlemen, Cubs fans, and Tom just rolls up the aisle, just walked up the aisle. I'm like, "Hey, Tom, what's up?" And he just like throws me a ball. I'm like, "Hey, well, all right, thanks, Tom. Good to see you, man." He's like, said hi and asked me how it was and stuff and how I'm doing and everything. But yeah, just tossed me a ball and started giving to all the Cubs fans around me. The old Japanese men got some, like Mike got one. So he was just like Cubs fans and finding them and tossing out balls. So that was really cool.
We
couldn't keep the balls.
Yeah, you couldn't keep the batting practice balls, right? That's part of the.
Yeah, apparently just the home runs. Apparently people fight over them. I was told. I'm not really sure if that's true or they used to fight over them or something. But
so they banned
it. Seem to. Yeah, but if you get a toss up, you can keep it. So if someone tosses it to you, you can keep it. If they toss it up and you catch it, it's fine. But if it's batted, you got to throw it back. Which I don't. That seems the opposite to me. But okay.
How about a foul ball? Do you have to give those back?
I don't think in the game you did. I think before the game though you did. Like if there was anything before, but I think during the game you got to keep the foul balls. At least during the MLB games, I couldn't really tell during the other games because I was in the bleachers there. But
we've got to steal that idea from Tom Ricketts and get our own Bleacher Bum Band balls and hand those out to promote the band.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
I do have a pretty good promotion, and I just want to show this to everybody real quick. We are playing opening day, the Bleacher Bum Band, and Matt Kammerer made this kick-ass poster for us. So I'm gonna print up a bunch of these, and I think he's gonna put it on his Etsy store, make prints. So if you want one, you have to get it there. But yeah, these are so good.
Yeah, so good. Love it.
Yeah, come April 4th, it's free right after the game. We'll be playing all your favorite hits, including Old Style. We'll play that one. So
sure.
I gotta talk about all these fucking Sox fans. We gotta have to clear up some misconceptions about you, I think, because all these Sox fans are assuming things about you that I already know aren't true. First of all, that you don't have a job because you are employed. This guy says, "I can't believe Cubs fans contributed to a GoFundMe for some jobless dork Bleacher Jeff to watch the Cubs lose 2 games." But Mike Golden just says, "We love you, Bleacher Jeff." So it's
thank you, buddy.
You're coming and going with these people. And then, so you are employed, right? I mean, Yes,
I'm gainfully employed. I have at least 2 jobs, sometimes 3, but
you're not just living off that $5 grand, huh? You're not just,
no.
Yeah, you're not
just
living high on the hog, paying months and months of rent with the $5,000. And because this guy doesn't even think you have a house. This Bleacher Jeff, he says, this Bleacher Jeff thing is kind of tired. if Cub fans want to donate their money for a homeless guy to go to Japan, then I
At
guess
least he
that's
gets
their
it.
prerogative. Yeah.
Like, at least this guy gets it. Like, it's fine. Like, who cares? Yeah, call me homeless. I don't care. I have a home. I may look a little homeless just because I have hair and a beard, but I think that's where they're going
I
there.
disagree. I have seen your hair products. That shit's expensive. Like
You got it. Otherwise, it's gonna be a mess. Yeah, let's
exactly.
keep it looking good, baby.
But it's these freaking Sox fans are just they're and it makes me hate the Sox fans again because for a while there I was kind of feeling like, oh, maybe that's a thing of the past and we just have two teams in Chicago. We can kind of go back and forth and go to some Sox games, have a good time. And I was kind of feeling that way, hanging out with the 108 guys, the Chorizis of the world. You know what I mean?
Well, those guys are great. I love those guys. Like, those guys are great.
Yeah. It seemed like it, and granted, it's like not a monolith, right? But still, it felt like there was some hand holding going on. I was like, I'm going to let go of my idea that all the Sox fans are dicks and I'll stop being a dick to them. And then they just come out as the fucking biggest dicks and haters in the world. But I thought this was kind of funny. You're putting up, you see some cool owl statue on a rainy day in Tokyo. You're saying, I'm going to go hit some cool shops for before the game. And then some guy's got the nerves that says, you're the worst thing America has ever dropped on Japan.
Like, come on, hyperbole, but Jesus Christ. Like, oh my God, brother. Like, you're the fucking grip. Like, it's insane.
That did make me laugh. Like, okay.
No, it's funny, but it's ridiculous.
In a Hunter Pence, like, eats ho-hos sort of way.
Yeah.
In that kind of way. But some of these people are taking it way too far, I feel like.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I had some more. Oh, yeah. I got just this, that you went to Japan, or that you are in the Japanese paper.
Yeah, we all got enough Japanese paper. That's hilarious, too. Yeah, because like, when we were outside the Tokyo Dome, people just kept coming up to us and doing interviews and taking pictures with all of us, not like just me or anything. Like, everybody was like in there, and they saw a group of Cubs fans, like, oh, let's get them. Everybody else is Dodgers fans.
And there's your guy, Mike. And
me and Mike got one last look on the way out. Yeah.
And you got on TV and in the bleacher banter, Freddie Vetter said, kudos to our first international media whore.
That's Tim's running joke. That's a good one, though. I love that one. It's funny. Yeah.
Well, that's because Crawley didn't go.
Right. Crawley be sitting in front of every camera.
Exactly.
I was trying to just say, mind my business, but.
We got on Japanese TV with and in the paper too with the Seiya song that we used to do.
Oh yeah,
we haven't done it for a while. We
should bring it back.
Yeah, the Hey Seiya. He's got to do something. Like that's why we stopped playing it because like this guy's kind of just okay. You know what I mean? But he's good.
He's good.
But one thing that Sox fans are definitely misinformed about you, but they're also misinformed about like money in general and just pretty much everything. But check out this clown, another Sox fan. He's looking at the Yokohama, the Yokohama Stadium eats, and he says $1,200 for a beef and scallop bowl. Remember that when you're bitching about Chicago baseball concession prices. Ours are down
$7.
Yeah,
well, $7.50 for a bowl of beef and scallops. Like, what the fuck?
Well, to be fair, a White Sox fan did set up straight. He's like, $8 for that. Sign me up. And Mailman Jack says, "What do you mean? It's $1,200." He's like 1,200 yen. And then he goes, "I have a yen for that beef and scallop bowl right now." So I think the whole thing
was delicious too. Like, it was crazy. Like, that's the kind of food you're putting out there. Like, there's a little food truck there with like beef and scallops. Like, what? Like. It was delicious. It was crazy. Like, and for $8, like,
yeah. They really gouge us in the United States. Even like our 7-Eleven hot dogs. Yeah, I mean, everybody. Tokyo's kind of expensive too, like in general, but you can get around for cheap. It sounds like.
No, I think like the most expensive part was just getting here and the hotel and stuff. I mean, but even that wasn't that bad, honestly. Like, I put all this on GoFundMe. Like the flight was $1,800 round trip. The hotel was $1,700 for 10 days. Like, and after that, like I've barely spent, probably $600, $700 since I've been here this week so far on food and drinks and getting around and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm taking some cabs sometimes because, I've been tired and stuff. So, yeah, but it's actually kind of amazingly cheap. I think, if you go to higher end restaurants and stuff, it'll get kind of pricey, just like anywhere. But as far as like the everyday, everyman stuff, like it's been a lot cheaper, like a lot. Like, so you notice it.
Cheaper than Chicago?
Oh yeah, wait. Like that's just for stuff and drink. Like drinks at a bar are like $4 to $6 everywhere. Like
Yeah.
for like a whiskey drink. Like you can get beers for like $3. You can get beers out of vending machines here. It's insane.
Wow. No, man, that sounds great. I really wish I could have gone, but I was in Poland. Matt Kammerer is here in the chat. Says, "Hold on, was Jeff little boy or fat man?"
I think it's obviously was Fat Man, guys, but it's all right.
And Frank is in the chat saying, "Never spent more than $30 for two people at any restaurant here."
That's true.
And Jorge Moreno's here too. One of the Spanish language voices of the Cubs says, "Japan was a surreal experience. Shout out to Jeff for bringing the Cubby energy." I agree. So, like, I was glad to see that it's mostly Sox fans that are giving you grief on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, because and I know there's some freaking Cub fans trying to make a name for themselves, and also like I'm gonna play. We take it to commercial in 2 minutes. I'm gonna play the Ballad of Pancho Boy because this is not your first controversy that you've had when the season ticket holder who maybe came to 20 games a year showed up and took that first row seat, and despite you asking politely and buying the guy beer, he would not relinquish it. But it wasn't even about relinquishing, but more of that he came back with that dastardly plan. You'll hear all about it in the song. So you're coming back, what, Monday?
Monday morning, yeah. I actually travel back in time. I leave at 10:30 a.m. Tokyo time and then arrive at 8:30 a.m. Chicago time somehow. So that'll be an interesting experience.
Wild. Yeah, that's insane. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your trip. I hope you get to see Tatsuya. I hope you saved at least one bottle of Malort for Tatsuya.
Yeah, I got a couple left. I got a couple bullets left in the gun there. We're gonna get a couple more.
He might kick you out if he sees you.
Fair, yeah.
But I do have to ask you this: did you see the Shohei Ohtani home run, quote unquote home run, and was that a home run?
No, I thought in real time I thought it wasn't a home run. I was on that first base side, so I kind of could see a little bit. I was a little bit down the line. Yeah, and I clearly saw the dude reach over and it hit his hand and go straight down. And I was like, well, if that didn't touch the wall and it went straight down, then he's reaching over and that's not a home run. And I was like turning around to all the fans, be like, no. But then I got to eat shit after that. But
well, I'm sure that the Japanese crowd probably wanted to see Shohei Ohtani homer. That was felt like it was all a big setup.
Yeah, that came straight from MLB New York. They're like, yep, no, home run, yep, the home run, yes, don't even worry about it, home run. And if you notice all the replays of that, they're not showing that part of it. They just show it off the bat going out, and they're not showing it actually coming down.
Dude, the freaking national media was jizzing themselves on a freaking fly out to Hap. They were like, he almost hit one out. I'm like, but it was out. Like, why are you crying?
Right.
So, well, have a good rest of your trip. We'll see you when you get back. Say hi to Cubby Mike. Say hi to Tatsuya. Keep the home fires or keep the Eastern fires burning for the Cub fans out there. Have a great rest of your trip, and we'll see you at band.
And real quick, thanks to everybody. Thank you, everybody. It was so good. Thank you so much for helping me and supporting this.
You're welcome, dude. Yeah, we're glad you're having a good time. Well, most of us are glad.
Well, fuck the rest that aren't. Fuck them.
Well, we're gonna play you out with the Ballad of Pancho Boy, and then we're gonna do a couple commercials. Then we're gonna bring Jeff Candid Cubs Rogowskis on from the Bricks Behind the Ivy show to discuss all the baseball parts. Peace.
Peace. Bye.
Saturday in the rainy month of May, a smattering of Bleacher fans were waiting at the gate. The fans began to stream to go see their favorite team. They made 3 separate lines to pass through security. There was one man who had a plan and knew just where to go. Run to section 504 and down to the first row. He had come prepared for rain with a plastic poncho. He'd get revenge with his girlfriend without getting soaked. And he'd sit there in the rain for 7 hours straight. He'd sit right through the weather that had made the game delayed. With his plastic poncho on, he'd sit all afternoon long. That's why I'm writing Poncho
The catbag Jack was Bleacher Jeff, he'd pick the slowest line, while Pancho's line moved faster, abetting in the crime. For unbeknownst to Jeffrey, a few weeks in the past, he'd saved seats in his section, making Pancho pretty mad. He'd come back from Iowa to teach Jeff a lesson. He'd claim Jeff's customary seat in Jeff's usual section. For the tickets they both held said general admission. Revenge will be served cold and wet, no respect for tradition. And he'd sit there in the rain for 7 hours straight. He'd sit right through the weather that had made the game delayed. With his plastic poncho on, he'd sit all afternoon long. That's why I'm writing Poncho Boy this song. When Jeff got to his section, he said,
What have we here?
a rookie season ticket holder who maybe comes to 20 games a year. I'll buy you a couple beers if you give up that seat. If not, I'm gonna shame you in a notorious tweet. But Poncho Boy, he wouldn't budge, he wouldn't move a muscle. The seat that once held Bleacher Jeff now held a soaking couple. The driving rain poured off his poncho, pooling into puddles, while Bleacher Jeff stayed warm and dry down in the bleacher tunnel. And he sat there in the rain for 7 hours straight. He sat right through the weather that had made the game delayed. With his plastic poncho on, he sat all afternoon long. That's why I just wrote Poncho Boy this song.
The Son Ranto Show has hired me, a professional voiceover actor, to tell you why you should become a Son Ranto Patreon patron at patreon.com/sonranto. First of all, it's only $1 a month. And if you can't afford $1, I don't even know that the Son Ranto Show wants you as a listener, because you're too poor to even hang out with anyway. Also, as a Patreon member, you get the Son Ranto Show ad-free, and the Patreon-only podcast called Cubs Pod, which releases daily during the season with bonus episodes all off-season long. Son Ranto Patreon members are also eligible to win a monthly prize, get exclusive Son Ranto Discord page privileges, and there are more perks at every level. Plus, 10% of your Patreon support goes to help the Lost Boys Youth Baseball Program as we give back to our community. So what are you waiting for? Spend your hard-earned money on tickets and beer for the Son Ranto Show by subscribing at patreon.com/sonranto. Otherwise, they'll think you're a poor loser. A big, fat, dorky, poverty-stricken loser. Take it from me and by commanding professional voice, and become a Son Ranto Patreon supporter right now.
Cubs Cast Corral. Yeah!
Welcome to the Cubs Cast Corral, a 5-minute roundup of some of the best Cubs podcasts on the planet. Let's start with Bricks Behind the Ivy. Jeff had on Cubs broadcaster Cole Wright to preview the entire Cubs season, and Cole's true love of the team really did shine through on this episode and during this conversation. He thinks they're a better squad than last year, but he also sees some shortcomings, like, for example, needing maybe an extra bat and an extra arm. And the guys really like Gage Workman. Hey, so do I. On the Fly the W podcast, sayonara to Fly the W. It sounds as if they might have recorded their last show. Maybe, I don't know. I've texted Crawley to find out, but we can be sure that Crawley is not done talking about the Cubs, because he did suggest everybody go follow Crawley's clubhouse. As far as the games in Japan goes, well, Crawley doesn't make too much out of just 2 games, but Dustin was not a fan of how the Cubs piggybacked the pitchers, especially when it came to Boyd pitching in the exhibition game and Brown pitching in the game that actually counted. Crawley revealed his top 5 moments in Japan with number 1, being the fans singing and chanting. That was pretty cool, definitely. Setup man Kyle questions Ben Brown's ticked down velocity, but racks it up to him simply not being ramped up yet. He doesn't think the issue is mechanical or that it has anything to do with that collarbone tumor he had in his extra neck. Simply stated, he thinks these Japan games are just happening too early in the season and is not a fan. On the Recap podcast, Gordo and Cap get heated over how franchises are valued and says a strike is imminent and we could lose a full season. Guest Jesse Rogers says the floor and the ceiling has been raised on the Cubs, but Gordo isn't so sure and thinks we'll know how good the Cubs are by April 28th after they run through the gauntlet of the toughest April in baseball. On Northside territory, Sahadev and Patrick talk about how the Cubs have made real inroads in wooing Japanese players, and it all started with Yu Darvish, who we traded for a bunch of teenagers. They pointed out that 2/3 of the league aren't even engaged with Japan, but also that the reason the Cubs do it is that they get great players on the cheap, which if you look at Shota and Seiya's contracts is true. Bleacher Nation, Brett and Michael, who is expecting baby number 2 in a week, said it certainly would have been nice to have Yamamoto and Sasaki on the Cubs in these games, and asked, is there anyone in the Dodgers you wouldn't switch out for their Cubs counterpart? They commented that Suzuki looked a little in between on some of those at-bats and that Shaw looked overmatched, but fast when running the bases. Brett also said in a game of Would You Rather that he would rather take beer out of the bleachers than Ivy off the walls because you could always drink a White Claw. On the CHGO podcast, the guys were a little frustrated watching some of the Dodgers players we dreamed on as Cubs signing possibilities beat us in Japan. But Luke and Cody are happy it was at least better than last year's opening day when we lost Justin Steele. Overall, the 2 games in Japan do not affect their full season outlook. And a new one here on the Cubs Cast Corral, Cubs Weekly. It's Marquis' podcast, which is better than most things that Marquis actually does. And that's thanks to Tony Andracki, Elise Menaker, Andy Martinez, and Lance Brodsnowski. They made some bold predictions on this pod, including that PCA might get some MVP votes and the entire outfield could get some gold gloves. The whole outfield. They felt like the Dodgers series was disappointing considering the good vibes they had going into Japan coming from camp. But they called this a make or break year for the Cubs players and their personnel. And that, my friends, has been your Cubs Cast Corral. Welcome back to the Bleacher Bunch. I'm your host, Danny Rocket, and we got Roberto Ramos, Captain Cubbo himself, saying #chance in the chat. And that is how you win a Frank Chance postcard sent to you by me with a message of love and doom to your very home. From his very home, we're going to bring him on. It's Bricks Behind the Ivy's very own Jeff Candid Cubs Rogowskis.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, the crowd's still going.
This is the loudest cheer I've gotten ever. Even when I invited all my family to my graduation, it was just crickets. No one was excited to be there.
Well, to be fair, your family is made up of crickets, so
that's true. Yeah,
1/4 cricket.
Great fiddlers, but like really, really tiny.
Exactly. You can barely hear them except at night.
Exactly.
So, hey, how you doing? Are you caught up with your sleep? I mean, a couple of early mornings, 5 a.m. here Central Time, watching the Cubs this week in real games, quote unquote.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I cheated a little bit. I woke up later and then started the game from the beginning and watched it as if it was live, so that I wouldn't have to do the early morning. I still had to adult, which is the worst thing that ever happened to anyone in society. So,
totally agree. That's why I've never done it. I had the foresight to say, you know what, adulting looks like a terrible idea, and rather just screw up at the Cubs game. I was with Captain Cubbo. Actually, we went over to Harry Carey's, and
I saw that on TV. I saw you guys.
Was I on TV? I didn't.
No, just Captain Cubbo.
That's the thing.
Full feature.
Exactly. Because here's me and Cubbo at the event itself, and he's getting interviewed by, it looks like, Channel 5. and every single they were like at least two different news stations out there at Harry Caray's. Like it's like I think they expected it to be more people because it was really like maybe 20 people, and of course I knew like half of them at least.
I mean, in all fairness, 20 people at 5 a.m. on March like 18th, like it's pretty damn good. Like especially like you guys were in Rosemont, right? Like you were at the Rosemont Harry Carey. So
I mean, yeah, it's part of a hotel, like over by Woodfield Mall and all those. Like, I guess the casino's not too far away. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't. It was what I expected it to be. There, but the mood was a little dour just because the games were, I mean, frankly, boring. That first game that they played, I felt like it was super boring. They got 3 freaking lousy hits. Shota didn't go very long in the game. A bunch of uncharacteristic walks. Like it felt like none of the pitchers on either team were really ready to be out there.
Because they're not. Like it's mid spring training. Like this is a tough ask, and it really just drives home the point of throw it out. But that means the Cubs have 160 games that count in theory. Because Justin Steele, like if that's a spring training start, which reasonably it could have been, like based on his ramp up, you throw it out. You don't care. Like he wasn't getting crushed. He still adds the swing and miss stuff in there, and that's a really tough lineup. But yeah, here we are. Like now we have to sit here. It's that dreaded feeling when like they have opening day on Friday or Thursday and their team's off Friday. And if your team lost, you're like, oh shit, I have to sit here until for like a whole another 24 hours to find out.
Now we got to sit really over a
week.
Yeah, because we've been sitting with these losses for now nearly 48 hours, and we still have a week to go from tonight. And then it's even going to take longer because I didn't even realize that opening day is really an opening night in Arizona. The game doesn't start till 9 p.m.
Which it's crazy to me, and I think that's it's interesting. I think the thing about the 2 games in Japan that probably is frustrating Cub fans more than anything is that it looked very visibly exactly like all of our fears. It validated all of the concerns, like, oh, there's Shaw with an error at third base. Like this is Christopher Morel all over again, a guy who can barely play third, and he looked a little overmatched offensively during this series, and which is obviously we're at like 8 at bats, which means nothing. But like then you're like, oh, maybe like Bregman would have been way more appropriate. We should add another bat to this lineup. Oh, here's another game where the offense didn't show up. Oh, like Justin Steele and Shota Minaga can't beat the Dodgers. You really should have got that frontline starter. Like Ben Brown getting knocked around. Oh, that's supposed to be our 5th starter potentially. Like everything that we have talked about all offseason that we've been worried about manifested in 2 perfectly exhausting games. And it's just
I think it was said best on Twitter when Cubs memes just put out a picture of Craig Counsell with the words eliminated underneath, which is really how it feels like, because because you extrapolate it, right? But face it, we were facing the Dodgers, but you're hoping the Dodgers are in the middle of their spring training too. They're without Mookie Betts. They're without Freddie Freeman. I mean, not to like add fuel to our fire here, but it does feel like all you wanted was a split there. You couldn't even get that. And the Cubs just have a way of doing everything the hard way.
Well, and it also highlighted the other point of like the Dodgers, every one of their weaknesses in theory that exist, they have they have gotten another star, or at minimum a significantly above replacement level player to fill in. That's a roster without holes. That's why people are talking about them the way that they are. Like they are going to get stronger as the year goes on. They're going to add some version of Shohei Ohtani's pitching. Roki Sasaki is going to level out and be a pretty solid pitcher. Yamamoto in year 2. Like we're not even talking about Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell yet. Like those are like, if it's not like the Cubs were screwed over in who they got to see in Japan. Obviously they got, Sasaki and Yamamoto, but you could argue they dodged the bullet of Glasnow and Snell. Like this is a loaded Dodgers team. And it's just not fair to compare anyone who plays them. They're so well
even their
rounded.
setup men, even their
Correct.
setup guys, like Banda. You're like, this guy's probably like a back end reliever on the Cubs.
How
Like,
they could
slot
take
everybody
setup
down.
man Kyle Stanley and put him in the bullpen, and they'd still have a better paper roster than the Chicago Cubs. Like
the setup man.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, and they've got like 3 closers. We saw them all. They made us look foolish the whole time. I mean, and then
it thinks that Tanner Scott ends that game, and the Cubs tried to get him like this.
Well, they tried to get all these guys. That was a point that was made by multiple podcasts that I listened to this week, and I think we're all feeling this way. Like, these are all dudes that we wanted. Yamamoto the year before when he came, Sasaki last year, and would have been nice to have him pumping 100 for us in Japan. Like even though
we have to sit here and evaluate too, like, what is we wanted and who is we? Is we the fan we, or was this a front office we, or was the players that turned like Yamamoto? I feel like would have been a more serious thing if the Cubs really got a shot at Ohtani, like, because then it would have been very much like the Dodgers are doing now. Like, screw the cap, we have to maximize the Ohtani window. He's going to bring in all this revenue. But when like Ohtani never seriously entertained them, and then the price tag of Yamamoto got to what it was, and it's like, oh, were the Cubs really involved there? And then Roki Sasaki, like, I just felt like was window dressing for the obvious. Like, the guy has been wearing a Dodgers hat since like 2022, like on the internet. Like, he was coming to the Dodgers. All the rest of it was, and I know like there's like people want to accuse collusion, and like you can't say it. Like, the guy like worships Ohtani. This is not much different. The Mariners never took advantage of it, but it's like when Ichiro got here, Ichiro was a god to these folks. He's a superstar. He still is. He's one of the greatest baseball players to ever play. Excuse me. Ohtani is in that world. So like to play with him, like in this window and still win and learn from a guy who has mastered being the best at not just pitching, but also hitting like that, you don't pass that up. And like the Dodgers have this huge system of revenue that's coming in from their TV contract. And I believe I read something that's like $50 million in just sponsorship in memorabilia sales for just Ohtani every year. 50 million just for Ohtani. That's if they don't sell a single thing for any other player. Like, it's not comparable.
Meanwhile, Tom Ricketts is wearing a batting helmet in the first row with Eddie Vedder drinking a beer, and
I was very confused by that.
breaking even like a boss. Look at him.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering how much of the Cubs player budget was used to send him to Tokyo. We should have gotten him a GoFundMe. Like, if we would have gotten Alex Bregman, but like we had to do a GoFundMe for Tom to go to Tokyo, I would have funded that.
Yeah. How much is in his ball budget? Like, he's got those balls he's handing out to everybody all the time. I mean, those balls have to be 50 cents a piece at least.
It's ironic because I think we've learned in the past 2 offseason that Tom Ricketts doesn't have balls. So like that's
he's compensating by walking around giving his balls. Look at all my balls. I thought this was funny. I saw this from Cubs Insider on Twitter. The Cubs are hosting a free spring training fan appreciation event tonight. Parking is $12. Hashtag breaking even. And of course, the classic marquee photo of who would boo Marquee.
You won't be booing in a few years.
God, it's these billionaires. They don't realize that the pitchforks are coming. Like, they're starting to get it. I think a little bit. But this has been there's been rumblings of this for a while. If you think back to, if you can make a draw a little line from booing Marquee Network all the way to Tesla's getting vandalized in parking lots. It's like seemed like it's the same pitchforks of the same kind of people. No billionaire is safe anymore. I tell you, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. It's I guess they're just gonna have to pay 60 more security guards, which like they have the money to do. While I like sit here like walking by myself like a weirdo. Apparently,
maybe Eddie Vedder's actually his security guard. He's just on. That's
like Eddie Vedder represents like so much of the punk rock movement, like grunge from Seattle. It's just hard to sit here and think he doesn't lean over the top. He's like, hey man, like, where are the pennies in the couch? Like, why can't you get as a team? Like, I'm sure he knows his place and that he wouldn't be invited to these things if he said something like that. But it's also Eddie Vedder, like grudge rock, like icon. I just can't imagine what the conversations sound like, where like Tom's talking about how hard it is to clean a gold toilet, and like Eddie's sitting there talking about how he's writing political like masterpieces and songs. Like it's just such a weird like juxtaposition.
Yeah, I mean, can you really? I mean, you kind of lose a little respect for Eddie in a way, because you're sitting there like, okay, you sat there in the first row with Tom, drinking a beer, like yucking it up, and then you're gonna go up there and be like, "Keep on rocking in the free world," and you're like,
Yeah.
dude, you're just kind of like, you're not really giving me like authentic vibes. But my question is, looking at this picture, what is with? It looks like a woman and a man. I can't really tell. Right next to Tom, and how come they've got the same crazy Harry Carey glasses on?
Yeah, like for me, like it gave a little bit of cultural appropriation, like Saturday Night Live, like look to it.
A little Jerry Lewis, yeah.
That's what I was like when I saw that. I was like, what's going on there? What's what are we trying to do? Those aren't prescription. That's like
I will say, having hung out with Tom Ricketts a couple times, like in a group situation, he just kind of wants to fit in a way. It seems like he wants people to genuinely like him. And he's still kind of like that rich kid who like always wonders if like the reason you're coming over to the house is because you've just got that new video game that nobody has. You know what I mean?
Exactly what I was gonna say. Like I love the like he got the PS5 and has this game you can't afford. And like
exactly.
And you're just
go
like,
over to
oh
Mike's.
Man. Yeah, man, I really hate Mike, but geez, like that's a cool video game. So I could tolerate him for like an hour if I get to play it. And then he sits there and you get to watch him, which like is better than you'll ever afford, so you deal with it. Like that's
I mean, he's better than Pete, that's for sure, who literally looks like a circumcised dog.
Yeah.
Then he's way better than Todd, who threw away hot dogs on Undercover Boss. And then when I confronted him about this on the ring ceremony day, he said, "It's okay, I paid for them." That's also something a rich kid says, like when they break something at your house and the dad comes and goes, "Here's $50 for that thing he broke. That was your priceless grandmother's vase," and you're like, you don't get it, do you?
But did you ever watch Arrested Development? Like
No.
Every time there's that's about like some very like wealthy people who are completely out of touch. And one of the bits on the show is this rich company runs a banana stand, and they always said there's always money in the banana stand. It turns out like they were literally meant that they lined the walls with all the money they laundered in the banana stand. But at one point they're trying to send one of the kids to the banana stand, and like they give the kid like a 20. He's like, "What could a banana cost? $10?" Like they're just so out of touch with like what things for. So like every time I saw that that Undercover Boss, that was what I would always say. I was like, "Do you even know what a hot dog costs?" You're probably thinking like $12 hot dog. That seems right. Like it's just like he
couldn't sell them. He couldn't sell a hot dog at a ballpark.
I know.
Like, I mean.
Who going into a dog pound and not being able to pick a dog having bacon in your pockets? It's just
exactly. They all hated me. It was like, yeah. I mean, he got recognized at the car park too, and then I guess there were some like fundamental changes that happened. But he was bad at all the jobs. But that's all a big setup anyway. It's made for TV. We all know that. But like the fact that he threw away the hot dogs and then paid for them and lied. Now that's what gets me. He lied to Rocco, and I don't know if you know who Rocco is. He was on that show.
I sat in 217. He was my guy.
Rocco's right there. You're right.
Yeah,
well, Rocco, R.I.P. Though Rocco died now, just this past year, and Rocco had a heart of gold. Like Rocco, just the nicest guy in the world, and Todd Ricketts lied to him on TV, knowing he was so Rocco was pissed.
Yeah, he saw him do it, and like he was so mad. I remember, and
because he said he sold him, and then paid for him. Right? That's what happened. I mean, I don't know. How do we get here? Oh yeah, because of the Cubs losing to Japan, and we're just pissed.
Exactly.
Well, I
processed
mean,
sausage, the Cubs being 0-2, like there's a connection there.
exactly. Well, I mean, if you think about the Cubs and where they are with their kind of Japanese exploits right now, I listened to Northside Territory, and they were talking about how the Cubs really have tried to make inroads in ways that other teams, like really 2/3 of the teams, don't even try.
Yeah.
With trying to get Japanese players to come to the United States, and partly because they are going to be more inexpensive. Like Sasaki is on a rookie contract basically right now.
correct.
And, look at the deal we got for Shota Imanaga. Look at the deal we have for Seiya Suzuki. They're all reasonable to inexpensive deals considering
Yeah,
the
but
market.
like Imanaga's weird. Seiya's contract in theory costs more because of the posting fee.
Right.
Because and that's why I'm like, semantics, because you don't know what these guys now they translate. So I understand I understand the philosophy of wanting an international footprint, because look at all
the Dodgers.
just all the like the Dodgers and how they've done things. But at the end of the day, you still have to get good American players too. And that's not to be racist. It's just
draft.
You can't you can't negate an entire market because you see this potential advantage. You have to play both sides. And being the Chicago Cubs is supposed to give you the luxury to be able to do both those things. These cheap options, that sounds like a Rays idea. You should be looking at how to maximize the controllable talent, and I've got 7 years of this guy at only $1 million, and all these guys leave the Rays, get mega dollars, and can't handle large markets and all this other stuff. But the Cubs, I understand if you look at how the Dodgers are perceived in the rest of the world, and there's this huge revenue opportunity, because that's more why we're doing it. It has nothing to do with the cost of players, it has more to do with the Dodgers are selling Dodgers caps in Japan, and that's an untapped revenue market. So if we get them to start buying Cubs hats in Japan because we have Japanese players, that's an untapped market. And they want to sell marquee in Japan because that's an untapped market. It's all about money. But if none of this money translate into them being a larger market club or behaving like a larger market club, then I don't care. You can decorate this, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want. Do not tell me how great this is until I see you giving a shit on actually making this team better with also American players that you can buy for pure dollars and know exactly what they are. It just that article bugged me for that reason. And maybe I'm a little pessimistic because of watching Sasaki and Yamamoto and thinking these guys were available for just pure dollars. Shohei Ohtani was available for just pure dollars. And instead we just sat and twiddled our thumbs and well, something else will come along. And now we got Cam Smith, absolutely, which the farm system is supposed to be the thing we hang our hat on, destroying for Houston. Yes, it's just spring training, and there's not even a sniff of them trying to extend Kyle Tucker. So this is such
in fact, I'm hearing a sniff that they're just not going to do it. I was like, how is this the story now? It's leaked to Bleacher Nation's well, yeah, we're not going to get them, I guess. I'm like, what are you guys hearing? Just, I mean, and that is so Cubs to act disinterested, so maybe they drive the price down. That we don't really want him that bad, and he's had a bad spring. So they're not really
part of
high
me
on
is
him.
Sitting there. I'm like, well, the Cubs be thankful if he has a slow start, because maybe he'll come to the table, because so many of these guys have monstrous walk years. If this guy has a slow start and we get to May and that scoreboard batting stats are a sub 700 OPS, he's gonna go, oh no, I'm gonna really have to turn it on, which it would be reasonable to be that slow. But does he get nervous and come to the table, and then the Cubs negotiate a deal that's way under market value? But he's also smart in that he can have a terrible year and he's still a Gold Glove defender. He's got this pedigree, and people are pushing $40 million a year, and the Cubs are just not interested in offering a contract that high, apparently, ever. So
I mean, it does seem that way. I mean, they refused to do it for Bryce Harper years ago, and anytime
that deal looks incredible now.
Yeah.
He's $25 million a year and a perennial top 5 all-star player. Swings from the left side of the plate, played the outfield, which the Cubs needed, lefty slugger, which they needed. Now he plays first base, another position they have struggled to fill. Please explain to me why that was
why they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
He named his dog Wrigley. I mean, there were really reason after reason that he should have been on the team.
He was wearing,
Friends
like,
with Chris Bryant,
I was gonna say he was wearing Chris Bryant jerseys, and like when the Nationals came to town, he wore a Cubs jersey and stood in the outfield and cried and saying "Go Cubs, go!" I'm just kidding. Like it's just like if the writing was on the wall. Like that was the last year I had season tickets. My wife had given me the Bryce Harper ultimatum, and she said if they sign Bryce Harper, we can renew our season tickets because it had gotten so expensive. And I was like, hey, if they sign him, like I can see like a world where we can still sell these and we're going to still be able to move tickets. And we sat and we sat and we sat and nobody engaged him. That was the year too, like as a baseball video game nerd, like Bryce Harper did a thing with MLB The Show that year where they announced like, hey, whatever team I pick, I'm going to be on the cover of MLB The Show wearing my new jersey. And it became like, it was like 3 weeks before the game came out and he still hadn't signed with a team. So they had like release like a version of the game where he's not wearing a jersey because like it hadn't gotten to production. And like nobody thought that Bryce Harper would sit there that long. It just was mind boggling because I think everybody thought it was a done deal with the Cubs. And they just were like, nah, no thanks.
Yeah, no, that's too much. I mean, I think that everybody says that the Hayward contract scared him, but I don't even believe that. I got to bring this up in the chat, and then we got to go to break, and we're gonna bring on Jonah Karsh, a big Cubs fan, and also a guy that's been helping me out with my my housing situation. I wanted to have him on the show to talk about his Cub fandom, and also what he does here in the city of Chicago to help out tenants. Just kind of just inform everybody, be just to let you know that there's Cub fans out there doing great work for all of us. But I need to bring up this comment for Rogue Wave Creative, who wants a parody song of Even Flow, which is Tom Ricketts maybe singing Break Even Flow. Break even flow. Tom Ricketts has no balls. Everybody got one of his balls. Yeah. I'm not sure how that.
Oh yeah, no, that's lots of vowels. That's every 90s.
I was thinking,
oh yeah.
Played wiffle ball with Eddie Vedder outside of the left field wall where the mom shrine is now. Yeah. Right there on Kenmore, and he's much shorter than I thought.
Oh really?
He's not a tall man. It comes into my chin. I'm not a tall man. Nobody knows how tall I am.
That sounds like one of those like Field of Dreams like fantasies. Like I played wiffle ball with Eddie Vedder. I'm so just supremely jealous of you at this moment.
No, it was just all you gotta do is just hang around after the game and just stand there like a fool, and then maybe sometimes you'll play wiffle ball with Eddie Vedder.
There you go.
If you've got lots of time to waste, which I don't think you do really, but you barely made tonight's show. You're such a busy man.
It's my kids have bedtime, and I got to read the story, and it's a vocal performance. It takes a lot out of me, so I have to do warm-ups. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so many British people would be offended about how I read Harry Potter. It is not PC, but my kids love it. So,
it's with the thickest of all Chicago accents, I'm sure.
It's wicked hard. We go to Boston sometimes. We get the A's in there. I've had my in-laws tell me all the time that I have a really thick Chicago accent, and I think that's the funniest thing I've ever heard because I don't. So that's
it's not really thick, but it's flat. It's flat.
Yeah, it's there. It's like I'm not like Decatur over by Dare or anything like that. But I hear it, but to me, I sound like to them, I sound like the guys in the SNL sketch. And that to me is hilarious.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Jeff, you're more than welcome to hang out if you want to, or you can take off. Yeah, you're going to vamos. But thanks for coming on. Guys. Listen to Bricks Behind the Ivy. It's a great show. I really enjoyed your last episode with Cole Wright. Go. Everybody should check that out. It's on the Bleacher Bunch feed. It's on the Bricks Behind the Ivy feed if you're subscribed to that. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsor, In the Clutch Shirts. Check out all their new Cubs gear that's coming through within the next week at intheclutch.com. We'll be back in 1 minute with Jonah Karsh My man, Jonah, big Cub fan, and the guy that's helping me fight the power. Here we go. Thanks for coming on, Jeff.
All right, see you guys. Go
We're
Cubs.
going.
If you like the Cubs a bunch, buy your t-shirts from In the Clutch. We've got all the best styles for you. Dansby, Saya, Morel too. Clark Fly in his double U. Cody Bellinger, smoking dudes. Vintage shirts from days of old. Patrick Wisdom and Nico. You'll look sharp wearing your stro. 10% off with the code SONRANTO. SONRANTO. InTheClutch.com is your store for the most fun baseball shirts on the planet. Don't forget to use promo code SUNRANTO to knock a couple bucks off your purchase. Stack or die, we need more cups. Get it all at In The Clutch. Cause if you like the Cubs a bunch, buy t-shirts from In The Clutch. Get it all at In The Clutch. Get it all at In The Clutch.
All right, y'all. Hashtag chance in the chat. Seth Kennedy's here doing it. Steve Scher's here doing it. Andy Wells is here doing it. Robert Sanchez is here doing it. Hashtag chance. You could win the Frank Chance postcard sent to you by me with a message of love and doom and a chance to win the big prize at the end of the year. Well, I recently won a big prize, which was being evicted from my home. And after that happened, I went online and I told everybody about it, and somebody came to my rescue, and that guy was from the Metropolitan Tenants Association, and his name is Jonah Karsh, and he's a big Cubs fan. So welcome him to the Bleacher Bunch. Hey, Jonah, how you doing?
Hey, what an introduction. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Yeah.
So we got to talking, well, first about tenants' rights, and then second, you're like, probably looked around my apartment as we had meetings with my other neighbors, and you're like, this guy's a pretty big Cub fan, it seems, or maybe you looked me up, and you said, hey, I'm a big Cub fan too, and you sent me a picture of you in Puerto Rico with Javi Baez in 2015 as a kid.
That's correct. Yeah. Winter break. I'm a young guy. I'm a freshman in high school, 2014 to 15. Family took a trip to Puerto Rico, and my mom had a colleague that was a season ticket holder, diehard fan, and said, hey, Javi Baez is playing down there. He had just come up in 14 with the Cubs, and John Malley, the hitting coach, was in Puerto Rico, supposedly there to coach him on the Santurce Cangrejeros that winter. And so we went to the game hoping to see him. And it happened after the game. It was the last game of their season, and the players were just kind of hanging out afterwards, drinking, having a good time, and went up to him and, asked for a picture. And that was really before he got big. I mean, I was enough of a fan to know who the prospects were. I remember when I was like, oh, they just drafted Chris Bryant. They just, Javi Baez was a holdover from the Jim Hendry era, but, he'll be a really good one. And then they came up and, now he, swings at balls 6 feet off the plate. But in those days, he
always did that.
A really, really dynamic player. More often now, right?
Yeah, no, I think maybe he's just losing his vision. He doesn't even know how far away these balls really are. Right. But so I got to ask you, because most people that I'm 51 years old, so you're much younger than me. So I don't have the perspective of somebody who saw the Cubs win the World Series at such a young age. I mean, you were in high school, which that's kind of like the sweet spot for fandom in a way. The people my age, they're always thinking about that time. That's what keeps them into baseball, because they're thinking about their wonderful days and their youth, when they were into the team. And it just, those are the magic moments when you're really coming to the sport. So what was it like watching that run up, that 2015 up and just being freshman, sophomore in high school?
I was a junior when they follow my junior year, they won. And it was, I was a diehard baseball fan, and it wasn't that cool. I mean, maybe baseball was the sport of choice for young people when you were growing up, but no one really cared at my high school or anywhere where I grew up. So I was always the weird nerd off in the corner, writing articles for the school paper about the prospects in the farm system. And they're like, who is this guy? So I was like, and then all of a sudden my friends are like, oh my God, the Cubs. I'm like, I was doing this before it was cool. I would say my formative season was 2008. That was the year I really got into them. And I built it. I was 8 years old, born in 2000. So I built it up in my head that it's been 100 years. Like, it's destiny. They have to win the 100th year, and I didn't have cable, so I could only watch when they were on WGN every third game or so, with the antenna. I'm old enough for that. You had to twist the antenna to get a better signal. And I was devastated when they lost that year. And so I may have been 16 years old, but I think there was a bit of old soulness. There was lore in my family, second generation Cubs
That's
fan.
my question. Like, how'd you come to it? Mom, dad, grandpa, grandma? Like,
my parents aren't really into sports, but I had a couple uncles who grew up diehard Cubs fans. One of them grew up in Champaign, Illinois, where it's basically half Cubs fans, half Cardinals fans, and he was a Cubs fan. And so, it was passed down to me. I was told, when I was picking a team, it has to be the Cubs. Wasn't given.
Oh, it was not a choice, huh?
Well, I mean, I remember I had a friend who was a White Sox fan, and at the time I wasn't really into sports, and I said, I think it must have been 2006, and he said to me, so I asked him, I didn't know anything at the time, so when are the White Sox going to win the World Series? Do you think they're going to win this year? And he was like, they just won, man. And I was like, wait, really? Like, root for it. And then in a matter of months, I think I was over at my house and some relatives came over and the Cubs Sox game was on. And they were like, how could you possibly be rooting for the Sox? And that dispelled me of whatever, maybe 2 weeks of my life that I really became a fan after that. Late 07, early 08 is when I started watching.
Those were good teams. Derek Lee, and he
right.
was just in Japan. I don't know if you got up early and watched any of those games, but
you saw the picture of him with LaTroy Hawkins and some of those other guys out on the field. Yeah.
And his dad was a huge deal and played, I forget which team in Japan, but Derek Lee lived over there as a kid
really?
Because his dad was a player over there. So, what'd you think of those Japan games? Did you wake up and watch them or watch highlights?
Well, yeah, I did wake up for the first one and I decided it wasn't worth my time a second time.
Yeah, it wasn't, and it wasn't.
Put out on the yeah,
it was great to see. Well, I want to pivot to like your job. Sorry to like bring you down, but I think what you're doing is really important work. And if you want to explain kind of what your gig is at Metropolitan Tenants Organization?
Yeah, my job title is community organizer, and so the bulk of my time is spent helping people in buildings that are at risk in various ways. Sometimes it's the landlord isn't making repairs. Sometimes it's a subsidized building where there's a really awful manager that's retaliating against people. And sometimes it's something like what you were going through where someone comes in and buys the building, wants to kick everyone out for profit. And so what I've been trained in my organizing career, although I haven't been doing it in the tenant space for all that long, is that people equals power, that organized people can win things much more than a committed individual can on average. And so when someone has a problem in their building that feels insurmountable, I like to say the first step is to start talking to your neighbors. I think the first time we talked, that's what I told you. Just start talking to your neighbors and creating a tenants union. This is something that, there's a lot of things to be worried about at the federal level. I had some solace, and I'm a 501c3 employee, so I'm not going to endorse or go against candidates, but I knew that regardless of the outcome of the election in November, the problems that tenants faced were going to remain something that mattered, that was still a problem, because the state of housing for profit as a housing right, but housing instead being made a commodity that's for profit in this country has been a disaster. And that was true, before November. It's been true for decades. And so when tenants get together in their buildings and fight back and say, we're not going to have this, the landlords rely on your rent payments. The landlords rely on their public image. They don't want to be made out to look like the bad guys in the press. So when together and act their power as elective, really force the landlord to the table and make them give concessions that they may have previously said there was never a chance they would give. And that's what I'm trying to do in buildings.
And it's such an important it's such an important thing that you're doing right now too, because what I've seen here in my neighborhood is building after building kind of fall to these landlords who are trying to kick everybody out, turn them over. I know that there's a building just south of me that this is happening to as well. It's happened to multiple buildings on my block. But what I've also seen at the same time is the tent city over in the park growing more and more every year, and that people on the margins are losing housing altogether. So what was it once in Uptown was naturally occurring affordable housing, and because we don't have any laws on the books to protect the communities of people that live there, and anybody can come through and just kind of rip everybody out of there in 4 months time after their lease is up, because of that, it's we're actually losing population within this community, and people on the margins are, well, they have nowhere to go because it really, the whole city is kind of turning over in this way. And that's why what you brought to my attention is a law that you're trying to pass called Just Cause, which to me makes the most sense to kind of slow the roll of some of this that's going on, to try to provide at least some sort of compensation for people to end up somewhere else if this happens to them, somewhere else that's safe, if they are kicked out for no reason of something they did, like non-payment of rent or things of that nature, breaking the laws of the building or the rules of the building. But would you mind speaking a little bit about Just Cause Chicago and like what you and a bunch of other people and also organizations are trying to get passed?
Sure. And also, did you catch me before? I think my signal is not great.
You were a little breaking up for a moment there, but I think we got most of most of what you said. And it was.
Well, I'll get through this as best I can. First, to your point about homelessness, if we had enough affordable housing and we thought that housing was a human right, there wouldn't be any people experiencing homelessness in the city of Chicago. The driver of homelessness is lack of affordable housing. And when landlords come in and raise the rents to levels that don't work for tenants, that don't work in the economy that we live in, you're going to create more people that are homeless. That's just the way it works. And unfortunately, that gets lost in the conversation for some reason. And so Just Cause for Eviction says, understanding that displacement is a driver of homelessness, is a driver of gentrification. If a landlord wants to get rid of a tenant and terminate their lease for a reason that's not their fault, first off, it has to be a just reason. It has to be on a list of reasons that this legislation would propose. Some of them include required repairs to the units, converting it into a condo, if you have to move your family member in like a 2-flat situation. In those cases, fine, you can do it, but you're also putting all this risk on a tenant for something that's not their fault. And so in that case, the tenant should be entitled to relocation assistance. The tenant should have their move financed by the landlord in a case in which they're being kicked out for a reason that's not their fault. And if the landlord, this is also a good protection against landlords that just sort of say, I don't like you, I don't want to deal with you, you're a tenant that's been bothering me, I know you're not going to be able to prove I'm retaliating against you, and so rather than cite you for a lease violation and take you to eviction court, I'm just going to use the safety valve of a non-renewal and let you go out on the streets at the end of your lease. And under this ordinance, which we're trying to get passed in the city council, that would not be allowed. You can put people out for reasons that are not their fault if it's a just cause that's on our list. And we're always welcome to hear more just causes. But what we've found is the real estate lobby can't think of any more than the ones we listed because there aren't really any. They just don't like that this is going to cost them money.
Exactly.
And so,
and it's just slowing their roll. They're just going to build it into their profit margins at some point, if they really want to keep rolling over people. But the point is that we have communities that are like longstanding here, like people that living in buildings for decades, and then they just got to go. just so somebody else can profit. Like if you look at my walls, they used to be filled with Cubs artwork as my background. Currently, it's all sitting in a box. So, nobody wants that to be their life unless they're choosing that, and you certainly do need time. And I want to bring to everybody's attention the Belden Sawyer Tenants Union, because they're really having the fight of their life right now against somebody who will not negotiate with them at all. And that's, if you look them up, BeldenSawyerTenants.org. I've trying to get involved with helping them out. They're on rent strike right now. So this is a big deal. This is happening in Chicago. If you think of it, like, I'll bring it back to the Cubs for one moment, what Ricketts is doing to Wrigleyville, and, they're demolishing the Emus Catuli building today. Is being demolished because they think they're going to build something better there. Now, us old timers are pretty much like, here, I'll show you some video.
Wow.
And, this is a beautiful old brownstone. I mean, granted, it became a rooftop, and then they blocked with the scoreboard. We all know about the rooftop fights and all that stuff. But the idea here is that Ricketts is eating the neighborhood, this billionaire, and it's now moved up to Uptown. The gentrification has come through Buena Park, pushed people out of there, is in Buena Park, in Uptown, moving north, and they're trying to make the whole lakefront just this giant rich people international corridor. Now, that may happen eventually, if we become Dubai somehow. But like, the fact is, while you're doing that stuff, you're displacing people, Cub fans, people who live by the ballpark, who take the red line, who work at Wrigley, who work all over the city. These are long-standing communities, and they should have some right to the places they've been, to not be displaced. And I just thank you for working so hard for my building, even though I can't really talk about it because I'm quote unquote underneath a zip it or lose it sort of agreement, although I haven't signed shit. But your work made that happen, and we have to shout out Ari too, which he's with One North Side. So because
shout out Ari Venick, co-organizer. Have been working with him on this campaign, along with obviously everyone in the building who are the reason that we're able to do this in the first place.
Yeah. It really does take all of us. And, and I feel that way about just about everything. It's kind of why this show exists too, the Bleacher Bunch. Like, I had the Sun Ranto show, and then we would have these roundtables. And I was like, you know what? I've met so many interesting Cubs fans that do all sorts of great stuff. They're talented. They have interesting jobs. They have interesting lives. And I kind of want to talk to all of them. I don't want to be stuck in this sort of podcast paradigm where it's always the same damn three of us yelling at each other about, how could he swing at that? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just nice to have you here. We got to catch a game. I definitely got tickets for you. And I have a Javi Baez piece of art for you. I know you, and I am trying to sell these things, but I want you to have the Javi art personally, just for you helping me out and stuff like that. And then it would just make me feel good if you had this. That's the Javi Puerto Rico Matt Kammerer artwork. And I'm also trying to get rid of these other ones. Get rid is the wrong way, but I want to make room for new art. I'm moving. I don't want to bring everything with me. I want to kind of start afresh. And so I got this David Ross and Jason Hayward dick bump. Do you remember that from your high school years where they would bump cups?
It might have gone over my head. No, I don't remember that.
Us dirty old men were having a hilarious time, and Matt made some artwork, dick bump. So I'm selling these. I'd take $25-$30 for it. Just I'm trying to get some money to move and stuff. But you're taking the El Mago, Jonah, and then I also got this Kyle Schwarber for sale. That's pretty cool, right? And
let the record show that you've already given me a free air conditioning. So, Danny's been more than generous, and eventually he'll give me the value of whatever he's getting.
Well, the fact is, you helped us so much that it would really, and you helped all my neighbors, which was always my kind of point with this whole endeavor. Like we're getting it's something that happened to us, but I feel like, just us coming together as neighbors, as a community, like getting involved with some of the other tenants unions. I feel like that's been a real positive for me, and a real kind of something that I obviously care about for personal reasons, but something that I've experienced multiple times within my life, living in New York City for 18 years, being in Brooklyn in the 90s. Now it's like the fanciest place on earth. Nobody can afford to live there. I was in Harlem after that. Now, we can have a conversation about gentrification and like my face being one of the first ones on the block in a largely in a community that was really before that brown or immigrant or something like that. And artists are always like kind of the first white guys in there that kind of wreck it then the rich people come after that. And so like, I'm very aware of my kind of role in all of this too. So it's something I care deeply about. And so if I could do something to kind of stem the tide of it, work with you, work with Ari, keep volunteering for the other tenants unions, just do what I can. And also it's freaking fun to come after these landlords. They're freaking real pieces of shit sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and let me just, if I can make a connection to this Cubs stuff. I mean, it seems like you've built a whole community around this podcast. And I actually think that when you're talking about showing up for your neighbors, that's the part that breaks the brains of the landlords. They don't get when you sit down with them. They just want to make deals with individuals. And when you say to them, no, I will make a sacrifice for myself because I care about my neighbor next door and how they end up, it breaks their brain. They're like, what do you mean you care about them? That's not how they've trained themselves to operate. It's dollars and cents. They've already numbed themselves to being able to displace a building of 30 people. And so, it's that is how that notion of solidarity. If you're in an apartment building that's having problems and you're part of this Cubs community, what you're trying to create in your building, you'll actually find that you'll be closer to the people in your building and you'll get something together if you form a tenants union. And I really think it's a solution to a lot of the problems we're facing as a society, in bringing people together, getting us off our screens, out of our silos. In your building, there were some Trumpers in the tenants union, and different people from all walks of life, Black, brown, white, Asian, and they came together because they realized that they shared interest. And that shared interest was, we don't want to be displaced, and this multimillionaire who bought our building can afford to help us out. And that's what we were fighting for. So.
Yeah. And it's happening all over the city. And that's kind of what I want to make people aware of. And if it's not happening where you are, like right where you are, it's coming, because they want it all. I've never heard one of these multinational real estate corporations say like, that's enough. We're good. We're done buying buildings, and we're done raising the rent. It's just like they'll always take a little bit more. And I think it's interesting that you said they've numbed themselves to this. I think that's truth with a lot of things, with kind of how we do business with each other, is that it's just always about like stepping on somebody else and not really caring, and like somehow like putting on the blinders to the humanity of what you're actually doing to other people. And I really feel like some of these landlords, they really do not think of you as people. Like, they're not coming into this being like, oh, this is where people live and have their children and their mom is sick. And, they have a vacation planned right on the day we're going to kick them out. Or it's the kids. It's right. I mean, for us, April 30th, like, the kids got to move schools. Like, this is the middle of the freaking school year. You know what I mean? Like, no thought process to it. So it's just, and this is happening all over the place. And I just appreciate all the work you're doing. And, thanks for being a Cubs fan and being one of the cool ones. You don't come for Bleacher Jeff.
No.
No, like those damn Sox fans. You chose correctly. So, well, before I say too much and sink our deal, I appreciate you being here, Jonah. And anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up this show here?
Well, I'll just give a plug for my organization. It's called the Metropolitan Tenants Organization, citywide tenants' rights group. We have a hotline. If you go to our website, tenants-rights.org, you can call us Monday through Friday, leave a voicemail. You can also email me directly because we do have a backlog. So if you're not hearing back as soon as you want to, please reach out. It can be about an individual issue. My landlord isn't fixing the sink that's dripping. What are my options? Well, believe it or not, in Chicago, with certain kinds of notice, you have the right to withhold your rent legally under those cases. And so I can help you get set up with that. But if you want to do something bigger, like get involved with something building wide to put real material pressure on the landlord, I'm here for that too, as are my colleagues. And so that we need more of it, and we need people that care about it to stand up and take the lead. So please be in touch if that's something you're looking to do.
It would be great if you organized your building before something even happened and you already had your tenants union going on. You already talk to your neighbors. I mean, that is really what my takeaway was. We were already a tight building over here, so it wasn't that as hard, but it's like, it's just strength in numbers, and I just appreciate you kind of leading the charge and for so many different buildings and everything. So and everybody's saying it here in the chat. Rogue Wave, good job, Jonah, doing great work. David Elliott, thanks, Jonah. Terry E, thanks, Jonah. And Andy says, I got a good story with my landlord. Maybe we'll go over on we all got to landlord stories, but I am sworn to secrecy. Jonah, thanks for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you very much, Danny.
Go Cubs.
Go Cubs.
All right, we're going to finish off this show here. Go to justcausechicago.org if you want to see what that's all about. Sign the petition there, please. It would be I think it would just really be a helpful thing for the city to have to preserve our communities. Really. We do have the NCAA basketball tournament ranters challenge for the Lost Boys. I think I'm 15th. I haven't looked since I dropped weight out of the standings earlier. So good luck to you all. It seems like there's about 25 of us, maybe a few more popped in at the end, I think. So it's pretty good. I think we raised close to $300 for Lost Boys. Once again, patreon.com/Bleacher Bunch is where you support us, and we give 10% of all of our donations that we get. We give that to the Lost Boys as well, and Levante does great work down the South Shore neighborhood. Bleacher Bum Band playing April 4th. You guys all got to come out if you're going to be at the game, or even if you're not at the game, you can come after the game and check us out. It's free, but it's not real big back there, so you might want to come to Output a little before the game's over. And I've just shared the Facebook link to that in the chat, but I'll just tell you what it is. It's right after the game, April 4th, 4-4. And I'm going to put up Matt Cameron's awesome opening day poster. Look at that thing. Incredible. Let me describe it for the podcast listeners. It's a Chicago dog, and it in mustard is written Bleacher with all the condiments, and then underneath Bum Band, and then it says Output Wrigleyville in red and blue, and it's just got this kind of psychedelic sort of 1970s pow, like on Batman explosion of energy, and these lines that kind of come off of it all in pink, blue, yellow. Just gorgeous. I love the thing. Can't wait to hang it up in my new apartment. Hashtag chance in the chat. What else am I forgetting? I think that's it. Hashtag chance in the chat. So let's give that sucker away. This is your last chance to get in the chance. We will share my screen here and pick a wiener. Here we go. Boom. I press the button. Little thinking music. And the winner is Dominic Galoro. Congratulations, Dominic. Dominic's a great guy. Enjoy his company. Very nice man, and he's a postman. Let's hope he keeps his job. We're all rooting for you, Dom. Okay, well, I'd like to say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters, especially Blake Beard and Rogue Wave Creative, who have joined us at a super duper level, and that I say their name here on the air. Also, Matt Kammerer and his incredible permanent paintings, including that incredible Bleacher Bum Band poster that he made for us. And also in the clutch shirts, check them out. I've been in contact with them this week. They're running a little late right now, but they've got a really cool Japan shirt to commemorate that game, the games, 2025 Tokyo series. It's got all the Japanese players that participated on both teams, and just pretty cool shirt. It's one that other people won't have. Shout out once again to Joe at Obvious Shirts for my official Bleacher Bum. Number 96, 69 was taken. I thought it was taken from a ranter too. So congratulations. I'm glad it's in a ranter's hands. That's good to hear too. So because I don't know necessarily how to end this show all by myself, might as well just say Spagog, which is Go Cubs backwards, of course, and get the hell out of here with a song that I wrote last year called Opening Day. And seems appropriate for this week where we had opening day, even though it was in Japan. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll have a Son Ranto show for you this week. I'd like to thank all the shows on the Bleacher Bunch and support us. Patreon.com/Bleacher Bunch. It's opening day, baby.
It's opening day. Time to start again. It's opening day. It's the season when we turn the lights back on. Winter has gone away. It's opening day. Come down to the park. It's opening day. Sunshine for the darkness. Turn the lights back on. Because it's time to play. It's opening day. Lining up the team. It's opening day. On a field of dreams, you turn the lights back on. Winter's a long, hard way. Back on. Winter's a long, hard way. For opening day. Summer in the sun. It's opening day. Come out, everyone, and turn the lights back on. We are all in first place on opening day. You turn the lights back on. Lights back on. Winter's long.